I had a pretty bad bout of insomnia when I was 10 years old. After drinking 5 Dr. Peppers at a school party, naturally I couldn't fall asleep. I saw this commercial on TV late at night that made everything terrible. It was this Got Milk commercial where some person peeled off their skin till they became a skeleton and drank a bottle of milk. I'm not going to show you it. I haven't watched it in years. I couldn't fall asleep then, and I don't want to tempt fate now. It was not a one-night issue. My brain told me, well, if you don't go to sleep, you won't see the skeleton lady. And it didn't help that I was frustrated with not being able to fall asleep because, fun fact, that doesn't help one fall asleep. We tried a lot of things. My mom would sit outside my room until I dozed off. I cut out caffeine. I tried a bunch of other tips and tricks, but one thing worked better than the rest. One day at the bookstore, it was probably Barnes & Noble or something like that, I saw a cover with this little guy who kind of looked like me and who had a stuffed cat as a companion, just like I did. It was a collection of comics called Calvin and Hobbes. Calvin, with his stuffed tiger Hobbes, got up to various hijinks and adventures driven by his wild imagination. I remember sitting in bed and reading through the comics until I got sleepy, sometimes drifting away to sleep while the book was still in my hands. My nightstand had this little cubby where all the books would fit nicely, and so if one of the books became too familiar, I could easily grab another book to keep it fresh. I remember Spaceman Spiff, I remember Calvin Ball, I remember Calvin's expansive backyard, and the contrast of personalities between him and Hobbes. Most of all, though, I remember feeling seen. Calvin and Hobbes was created by Bill Watterson. First launched as a newspaper comic strip in 35 newspapers in 1985, it wasn't long before Watterson saw success. Within a year, 250 newspapers carried the comic. By 1995, Calvin and Hobbes ran in 2,400 newspapers and was read by hundreds of millions. Watterson distributed his first collection of comics in 1987. In total, there are 19 official Calvin and Hobbes books. By my count, I think I have at least 12. To sum up Calvin, I found a newspaper clipping from an interview with Bill Watterson. He says, "I guess he's a little too intelligent for his age. The thing that I really enjoy about him is that he has no sense of restraint. He doesn't have the experience yet to know the things that you shouldn't do." A lesson that I would have loved to have learned myself with too many Dr. Peppers. The access I had to stories as a kid felt limitless. I remember the TV schedule on Friday afternoons. I remember when we first got cable and spending the entire day glued to the couch watching Disney Channel and Nickelodeon. I remember the Game Boy and GameCube games and movies that I'd rotate through, browsing the aisles of Blockbuster. There was always something new, always a continuation of narratives that a kid like me could indulge in. But Calvin and Hobbes was different. There was no continuation or sequels beyond its initial run. Bill Watterson was staunchly against marketing and distributing his intellectual property beyond the initial run of newspapers and his book collections. For him, the work he did was enough. The run of Calvin and Hobbes in newspapers ended shortly after I was born. Bill Watterson gave us Calvin, Hobbes, and the rest from 1985 to 1995, a 10-year run, a decade, and that's it. There was also no taking the IP and turning it into other marketing opportunities. Merchandise, TV shows, even theme park licensing are ways cartoonists can capitalize on the popularity of their work. Look no further than Peanuts, created by cartoonist Charles M. Schulz. You can buy a Snoopy thermos, you can ride a Snoopy ride, Snoopy will sell you insurance, paper towels, and root beer. I'm sure you've seen the characters frequent the Macy's Day Parade, come to life on the Broadway stage, or maybe you make an appointment viewing for their TV special on Christmas. The opportunities are extremely lucrative too. Just last year, Sony Pictures took a majority stake in the Peanuts franchise for a Joe Cool $500 million. I'm no stranger to consuming sequels, prequels, and the continuation of IP. I mean, I've seen most of Marvel, almost all of Star Wars, and I'm begging for another decent Terminator movie. Sure, sometimes you get an Andor, which in my opinion is the best Star Wars since the original, but something happens when you don't let a story end. Character development becomes cyclical, the stakes of the story get raised to impossible heights, writers are put in the position to make decisions with their IP that confound audiences. The fabric of the original media becomes strained. Audience headcanon can become so great that when continuations fly in the face of it, the audience loses trust. I wrote more about this and how it relates to Gilmore Girls on my column recently. You should check it out if you want more of my thoughts on the matter and if you want stories like this a little bit earlier, just in written form. Bill Watterson had all the opportunity in the world to capitalize on the success of Calvin and Hobbes. Over the comic's 10-year run, Watterson was in constant battle with his publisher to cash in on merchandising opportunities. He never relented, threatening to walk away from his contract completely if the publisher sold out. It's estimated that Calvin and Hobbes could have fetched Watterson between $300 and $400 million had he simply said yes. In the Calvin and Hobbes 10th anniversary book, Bill Watterson volunteered his thoughts on the matter. I have several problems with licensing. First of all, I believe licensing usually cheapens the original creation. When cartoon characters appear on countless products, the public inevitably grows bored and irritated with them, and the appeal and value of the original work are diminished. Nothing dulls the edge of a new and clever cartoon like saturating the market with it. I'm struck by Watterson's commitment to his principles. In a world where Snoopy is probably going to be in the next Avengers movie, it's refreshing to hear about an artist vehemently against that kind of character expansion. There is no TV show of Calvin and Hobbes, there is no theme park, there is no movie, and there never will be because Bill Watterson did not feel the need to risk his creation for a quick buck. In my research for this piece, I rediscovered a strip about Calvin discovering an injured baby raccoon in the woods. I really encourage you to check it out yourself, but spoilers, the raccoon doesn't make it. It's absolutely heartbreaking to see a naive 6-year-old come to grips with what death means and how unfair it is that an innocent animal perished so soon after entering the material world. Just as I felt seen discovering the books as a 10-year-old, I feel seen today, nearly 32 years old. I cried while reading it then, and I cried while rereading it recently. It was a good cry. The first row ends with Calvin running off to get his mom. Hobbes expresses a wish that she can help, to which Calvin says, "Of course you can. You don't get to be a mom if you can't fix everything just right." I'm sure when I first read this as a kid, terrified of falling asleep, deeply disturbed by the unknown that might attack me, I too wanted my mom and dad to fix everything just right. I wanted nothing more than to undo what I saw, undrink the caffeinated soda, crawl back into the innocence that I once had. But parents can't do that. No one can. In the last bit of the comic, Calvin says, "Mom says death is as natural as birth, and it's all part of the life cycle." She says we don't really understand it, but there are many things we don't understand, and we just have to do the best we can with the knowledge we have. My mom sat at my door being present with me while I read Calvin and Hobbes and drifted off to sleep. She and my dad did anything they could to help fix the hurt I was feeling, even if it meant buying another Calvin and Hobbes book to add to my collection and help ease the pain a little bit. But fortunately, they could only give me so many before I had to figure things out for myself, to the best of my ability, with the knowledge I had, even if I didn't understand. Each night as I drifted to sleep reading and rereading Calvin and Hobbes, I was comforted by the constant of familiarity. I saw myself in Calvin and I learned through him many lessons, not just about death. I couldn't look for comfort in a Calvin and Hobbes TV show or carry it with me in a Calvin and Hobbes thermos. The restraint of only being able to consume so many stories of Calvin and Hobbes taught me that everything ends. Sleep was inevitable. I just had to put myself in the position to accept it. I'm thrilled to have rediscovered these books, and I recommend them to anyone who has a young kid trying to make sense of the world. Or maybe you're a fully grown adult and you could just use a good cry reading about a baby raccoon. These books have taught me so much about who I am. They taught me how sometimes cutting yourself off, even when things are going great, better serves you in the long run. Like, maybe you just have 4 Dr. Peppers next time then. I'm grateful that Bill Watterson did not sully the image of Calvin by continuing the story beyond where it needed to go. Look, what you see is what you get. That's it. I leave you with the following quote from Bill Watterson from an LA Times interview. "I think what I'm trying to do is see the world through a child's eyes, where all experience is new, looking at the world with everything being fresh and without prejudices. Then, I give Calvin the ability to articulate his thoughts."